anything. You can keep doing whatever you want to. You don't even have to be a part of this live if you don't want to be. It's up to you.
I can walk out right
now. We're
now.
Live. Don't walk out. Don't walk out.
Look at that cute shirt.
Thank you for adjusting me. We are live. This is
adjusting,
Wally.
I'm cleaning you up. Quit saying adjusting. And Annette.
And Annette with Supreme Gecko. You are adjusting. You're cleaning me up. I need you to clean me up all the time because I'm so dirty.
Oh my God, stop it.
This shirt is
I am walking.
You probably should right now before I say anything else bad. This is from Nikki from Hooked on Geckos. Take a look. So she made this special. I don't think she made it special for me, but she made it special. She was talking about shirts, and I went on her Hooked on Geckos. I went on her website, Nikki's website, and I said, they're all pink and they're all small to mediums and they're cool designs, but it doesn't show Hooked on Geckos. I want a logo. So she went out and made a logo shirt I'm going to say just for me, because it kind of is for me. Hooked on Geckos. Pretty cool. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is going to be a fun night. We have lots of people already joining us. You want to read off some names?
Oh. Moon over Miami. Leanne.
Moon.
Frank. Shane. Lone Tree Exotics. Don't move that. Philippe. Ghouls and Geckos. Jen Lee. Angie, I saw her name earlier. Scroll here.
Oh,
you are just messing with me already. Hooked on Geckos. Angie, who do I say? Love the exact. What is it? Lone. I can't even read. Lone
Tree Exotics.
Tree Exotics. Maybe I should take the glasses off. Paintings by Pelly, since it's close up. I'm supposed to be using them for.
You want my glasses?
And I'm nowhere near here. No, I don't want your weird glasses. Gerard is here. Shane is here.
I missed somebody saying you don't see many interviews about Tokay with Tokay breeders. Can't wait to get back into it. I miss having them. And the net's scrolling away, so I can't read all of your comment there.
It's just a lot of hellos.
Right. You don't see that many interviews with Tokays. Why is that? I posted, Shelby, thank you very much for joining us. Crazy Bugs. I posted this a couple of days ago, yesterday. I don't know, what is today, Thursday, and said, oh my gosh, what's one of the most popular geckos right now? What's one of the most popular reptiles in my mind? And I really have to say that I feel Tokays are incredibly popular right now. Why is that? Why is that? Because they are monster geckos. They're monster geckos. How many people, has anybody seen pictures, or has anybody held a Tokay gecko or tried to hold a Tokay gecko, and you put your hand into the enclosure and then you pull back maybe 4.5 fingers? They are biters. They're terrible. They're monsters. They're the epitome of a bad gecko to keep in the hobby, right? Right? Am I not right? Seriously, how many people?
Seri is far away from us right now.
How many people have that kind of imagery of Tokay geckos? I know
somebody did say they're scary and they're mean. People are afraid of them. You were right.
People are afraid of Tokay geckos. Why is that? Because they are bitey. They are a little bit aggressive, but
territorial.
And Seri's going to share with us more about their behavior and their dispositions. And hopefully we have time enough for Seri to kind of go through how to tame Tokay geckos. I hope we have time for that. But we're going to talk about Tokays. We're going to talk about why they're so popular in the hobby right now. We're going to talk about their care, their breeding, which I find fascinating. And we're going to talk about the basics of Tokay geckos. So let me, without further ado, right? It's only been, what, a minute? Oh, it's been 4 minutes already. Without further delay, let me bring on Seri. Seri, how are you doing tonight?
I can only use this hand to wave because I'm missing this one from all the Tokays. Getting all the fingers off, so,
That's the best food for Tokays, right? Just finger food?
Just fingers.
Yeah. Do you get that impression too that Tokays have this very horrendous myth about them? And people, you say the word Tokay and people immediately start thinking, oh, don't go buy it, it's going to bite. And
Well, absolutely. And I think, honestly, I think Tokays are so smart that they know this and they do this on purpose so that people just leave them alone.
maybe they do it to special people like me. If I go buy the tank,
Right.
they'll come out and they'll bite me right away.
Well,
Like,
that's
just
totally
leave me alone.
understandable.
They really do have a bad reputation. And I mean, they earned it. It's not like it didn't come from anywhere. They definitely earned it. But there's a reason for it. So we'll talk a little about that and their behavior and why they are like other, they are compared to other geckos. So
Well deserved, but there's a but in there too. So
yeah.
I can't wait to talk about that. But before we do, what I like to do on this show is talk. What I like to do on this show is talk to the people involved with keeping these geckos. So we're going to talk about geckos. We're going to get there. But Seri, can you kind of give us a little background about yourself? We want to know more about you. Talk about, kind of your history, your background, and eventually kind of what got you into keeping reptiles, if you don't mind.
Sure. I've always been an animal lover since I was really little. I can't remember a time I didn't have pets in my life. I was that little kid that was bringing home things all the time and that it was always begging my mom and dad for a pet. So I've always had pets. And I'm a dog groomer by day. I've been grooming dogs for 27 years. I have my own business. And I'm a corgi lover. So I have corgis everywhere, all over. I'm sure they're going to put their input in pretty soon because they like to bark at inopportune times.
I hope so.
And I have a degree in commercial arts, and so I went to college for that. And then I ended up, because I am deaf, I'm actually deaf. I have cochlear implants in both ears. I read lips, and I only got the cochlear implants about, oh my gosh, it was like 12 years ago for one, and then 2 years later for the other ear. And so I spent most of my life lip reading. And so when I went to college, it was great and everything, but then finding a job in the industry that didn't require answering phones and stuff like that I couldn't do was really hard. And so then I ended up going into dog grooming, and that's what I've been doing since. So
that's incredible. I cannot imagine the roadblocks and the speed bumps associated with that. And I don't want to, dwell on it too much, but I am kind of curious, if you don't mind, what kind of, I guess, how hard is it for you at reptile shows and things like that?
it's a lot easier than it used to be before I had the cochlear implants. Before the cochlear implants, lip reading is super hard. It's a very, very difficult, tiring, exhausting skill. And so once I got the implants, it was a lot easier. But one-on-one conversation is a lot easier for me than groups of people, and so it can be pretty exhausting and pretty hard. But I really love it. I really love talking with people. It's got really hard during COVID when there was masks and everybody was wearing masks, because I still do read lips a lot. I mean, I can hear a lot better with my cochlear implants, but I still lip read a ton, especially if people have accents, if they're chewing gum, if they have facial hair, if they have too bright a lipstick on. There's so many things that affect how you can read somebody's lips. And so I always have a hearing assistance friend with me, which is usually Erin Paris. I know you know Erin. And
Yep.
she's usually the one that's just translating for me when I misunderstand somebody. And then I have a hearing alert dog with me, Max. You always see me with Max. And he helps me, like when I'm on the plane and stuff. When I fly, I don't have my cochlear implant processors in at all. So I'm completely deaf.
Oh,
It's
is it
just
the
easier.
pressure?
Pardon? No,
Is it
it's just easier. There's so much going on and it gets so anxiety inducing that I just take them off. It's the best of both worlds. I mean, I don't have to listen to everybody in the airport. I just prefer to be deaf in the airport.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
so funny.
it's really the best of both worlds the way I have it. I don't know if I would change it if I could at this point, because when I Max, when I when the dogs are being super annoying, I just take my ears off. I
Oh, nice. Wish I
You
could
know,
do
I could just hit a button and be like completely deaf. And at night, I don't hear anything. But that's one of the reasons I need Max. He alerts me to fire alarms. He alerts me to sirens in the car. You know, stuff, doors knocking, all that kind of stuff. So
Oh my gosh. So I have to share this with everybody, and Siri will never mention this. You might mention it, but you're not going to bring the importance that I can to this. A couple of years ago, you volunteered your time to speak at the national speaker here, folks, at the National Gecko Symposium in Tinley. And Seri had her notes, everything. And okay, now we're going to talk about Tokays, and this is Seri. She comes up to the stage, and here comes Max with her. And I was fascinated by this dog, just how calm. And it's like it felt like, Seri, that Max's disposition was, this is my job to be here, and this is my job to help you. And
definitely.
I could see him watching, but calmly, but always on alert. And when he relaxed, when you started giving your presentation, Max just lay down on the stage, but you could see, you can't see my eyes, but you could see Max. And I was fascinated by this. Max was watching everything that a little movement in the crowd, and Max caught it and would watch. That was so flipping cool.
Just watching him visually helps me so much. If there's a sound that I normally wouldn't hear, and I can't directionalize sound, so sometimes I can hear certain sounds, but I don't know what direction they come from. I can't tell that at all. And so if somebody calls my name, I might hear it, but I have no idea what direction they're coming from. And sometimes, he'll look, and then that helps me. And so just being there helps me with him. He's so alert, he's so calm. It takes a very special dog to be a service dog. They have to be very solid in public and, not beg for food. He begs for food for my friends so badly, but when he's working, he knows he can't, so
He's
takes a
on
pretty
duty.
special dog.
We take for granted, I should say, when we think about, a hearing loss, and we were going to talk about geckos in just a second, but this is so fascinating. And thank you for opening and sharing with us.
No problem.
But we take for advantage the, hearing loss, and you're losing communication. But like you said, hearing directional sounds. I fished for all my life, and in a boat, I'm tuned in to, where did I hear that splash? Where did I heard something over here, and it's instinct. I'm not thinking about it. I just look in that direction. Oh, there's the fish over there. There's so many aspects of this.
Yeah.
That
and there's so many sounds that, like, I might hear it, but I don't have a physical thing to match with that sound. So I don't know what it is. I don't recognize it, and so there's a lot of things that are, it's hard, but like I said, I've adapted pretty well over the years. I've been deaf since I was really little, and so I've adapted pretty well, and I don't think I would change it if I could. So
can you hear Tokays barking at you?
If I have my ears, and I always say ears in or out, if I have my ears in, I can hear the call. Yeah.
Cool.
Most of the time when I'm at home, I just have my ears out, just because I prefer to be deaf a lot of the times. And so I do miss a lot of the callings, but sometimes when I'm feeding and stuff like that, I do hear them call. And it's a fantastic noise. I love it. So
I can hear, if I'm not mistaken, a parakeet or some kind of a bird in the background.
I have lovebirds that are usually quiet this time of the night, and just because I'm sitting here, they're like, "Oh, let's be super noisy." So yeah,
they're not that noisy.
It's super cool to hear that. Now, I'm going into a segue here on purpose, because when I think of Seri, and we've talked, at reptile shows in the past, I think of you having, this species, that species, and Tokays. But it wasn't until recently that I learned that you're not just keeping 2 or 3 animals. Tell us a little bit about your zoo.
My zoo. That's what it's definitely a zoo. I live in North Dakota. In South Dakota, there's reptile gardens, and everybody calls me the North Dakota Reptile Gardens. And I more visit the fun, they say, because I let them pet everything. So I have a lot of kids come to my house and just learn all about the animals and everything. I have the critical care card business too. And that started from kids wanting to learn about reptiles and learn about their care. And I wanted something that was very kid friendly for them to learn about these things. And that's where that all started. But yeah, I don't have a TV. I'm sitting in my living room right now and there's no TV in here because there's completely wall to wall cages. And so I think I can kind of show you, let's see here, that chameleon, fire skink, snakes, snakes, leopard geckos, Georgia, fish tank. So that's my living room.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And then I have the Tokay room and I have, in my bedroom, and then my grooming shop is attached to my apartment that I live in. And so I have a redfoot tortoise in there. I have a day geckos. I have Lichianus geckos. I have more fish tanks, turtles. I have turtle pond in there. So yeah, I have a lot of different species, and I think I have a total of 57 species total in this house between fish, birds, and invertebrates and reptiles. So.
You mentioned that, and you can hide that, Nanette. Nanette just kind of walk through the chat here and see if there's anything that I'm missing. You mentioned that to me the other day, and I couldn't even imagine you having that many different species in your house. Just incredible. But I think you're known for the Tokay obsession that you have, and that's super cool. I do want to share something though, real quick, because you touched on it, and I don't want to lose this. I really don't. This is, let me see if I can get over there real quick. I lost it. There we go. And I am going to share. Let me see if I can get over to this screen. There we go. Bear with me, folks, for just a second here while I try to find this. I will get there in just a second. Is this it? Nope, that's not it.
That's not it.
Give me a second.
Your turn. You'll get it.
Okay. We are going to stop sharing. I don't know why this picture is not coming up. There we go.
Seri, what kind of fish do you have? They're asking.
I have 2 tanks of tiger oscars. And I have parrot cichlids. I have a small planted tank of longfin cherry barbs. I have axolotls. I have four separate tanks of betta fish. And then I have turtle tanks. So
Okay.
Wow.
It's mostly the Oscars. I'm obsessed with Oscars. I love them. They're like puppy dog fish. They're fantastic. So
it's a big fish.
And what is your temperature?
Yeah, I have 150-gallon tanks with them in them. So
wow. Wow.
Every Sunday, all I do is water changes. I do water changes on all my tanks every Sunday.
Wow. I remember those days. I want to share this real quick. I finally found it here. Sorry about that. But you mentioned, and I'm going to see if I can get over here, your creature care cards. Talk to us a little bit about that, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. So the creature care cards, say again. Okay.
This is very
creature care cards are just like business cards, size cards. They have, basic information about the animal. Yep, there you go. That's actually one of my cage cards. Those are the little bit bigger ones that go on the cages. And on the cards are all just little quick at a glance information about that particular animal. With the little icons and stuff. And then when you go to the QR code that is on the cards, it goes to a comprehensive care sheet that lists all that same information, but it explains it in depth. So the card itself is just kind of a quick glance. A lot of people display them on their cages, and I sell them in a book too. So there's all in a book, and every time I put new species out, you can get expansion packs and add to your book. So there's like 90. Yep. So there's the book. There's spots for 90. Oh, that's not the book. That's a display. But yeah, there's spots for 90 cards in there, and I think there's 43 cards and 43 different species and stuff in there so far. And I'm constantly updating the information because the information in the hobby changes all the time. And so when the care for something evolves, my cards evolve with them. And so I'll have, new versions of cards come out all the time with new updated information. And so it's just great. It's great for newbies. It's great for kids. I'm not sure why I'm upside down now.
You fell down.
don't know what happened there. It just did that. Was that me or you?
Let me see if I can hide
Did
this.
you turn her?
I don't know what
didn't
happened. I
turn
didn't even
her.
do anything.
I'm mean, but I'm not that
Okay,
mean.
fix it.
Oh, okay. I guess you're going to be upset.
Never
Oh, wait.
mind. No, she's got it. She's.
I have no idea what's happening here.
I don't know. That was weird.
Oh, here she
There-
comes
there
back.
we
You
go.
came back around.
Okay.
We're
No
good.
idea what happened there.
No, no,
We're
okay.
good. I
Okay, hang on.
love
Let me
those-
adjust this thing so my phone doesn't fall over. All
Yeah,
right.
you're good. I
Okay.
love the creature care
Don't touch
cards
anything,
because-
Wally. Jeez.
I love the creature care cards because there's so much information on them
Yeah.
and they're so usable. You've got the book, you've got the cards that you can put right on the enclosures. Super, super cool. Thank
And
you
then
very
you
much
can
for doing
breeders
that.
can also buy them in bulk with their information on it, like their branded cards, you know, with their logo and their information. So they can give them out at shows to their sellers. So the seller goes home with all the information that they need. People don't read whole sheets of information.
No.
They just don't. And so I was trying to make it in a format that people would actually pay attention to and read. And so that was my goal, and that's what I've done. So yeah.
That's a good point. We used to have a stand and pockets and crested geckos and leopard geckos, and nobody took the handouts. Nobody took the cure sheets at all. But if you have a
Right.
card, you can hand somebody. They're going to take that and they're going to put it in their pocket and they're going
Yep.
to pull it out.
And then I said
read
all
it.
the comprehensive information is on the website. So it's not just that little information. There's a lot more, you know, to it. And so it's a multifaceted thing. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for doing that. And how many different creatures do you have?
I have if
On
I'm
the
not going
cards,
to tell
I'm
you the
sorry, on the-
number of my animals. No, you mean for the cards?
Cards, yes, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I think there's 43 cards altogether, but some of them are companion cards, like, you know, how to gut load your insects and, you know, what is brumation and stuff like that. So I think there's 30 some different species, and I'll be adding more. I just have a bunch of animals to take care of in a full-time job. So it's kind of a side thing right now, but eventually I would love it to be plants and small mammals and everything, you know, so it's a ongoing project. So
That's a full-time job right there. I
Yeah.
can't imagine it not being to try to keep
No.
up with that.
doing it.
Hey, there's our puppies.
There they go.
I live on a road on a business street, and it's beer and wings night next door. So they hear car doors slamming and stuff. So
They're
Okay.
just informing you.
It's fine. It's not loud.
Nope.
okay, good.
Tokays. Let's talk about
Okay.
tokays. Why
Did you see the
tokays?
tokay on her?
The what?
The tokay that she's got crawling all over.
Oh
I did
yeah,
not. I
Georgia.
missed it. Oh my gosh.
It was sitting
she's
right
been
here.
there since we started.
It was sitting here.
Don't let it get up to your
And it was
earlobe because
Yeah.
it'll bite your earlobe.
It's been.
Oh no,
sitting-
this is Georgia. I can hand her to absolutely anybody. She's absolutely fabulous. She's the reason that I fell in love with Tokays, because this isn't what you expect to see when you.
No, that's
See,
not
it's
what I
okay.
saw in the tanks that I saw. No.
I love Frank's comment here. Frank, thank you very much for sharing all of those links.
Yeah.
Tokay snuggles.
Yep. They've been. asking in the chat.
She's what got me into Tokays. I started out breeding crested geckos like everybody else, you know, I don't know, 15 years ago. And then I got Georgia. She's 14 years old now. I got her from Keto at Spotted Scales. And so she's just super, super tame. I can hand her to anybody. She's amazing. And that's what made me fall in love with the species. And then I got my second one, and it was nothing like this. And I wanted to know why. I was like, why, you know? So I was on a mission to make another Georgia. And I did tame that one down too. But in general, I don't handle my Tokays a lot. I don't feel that every animal needs to be handled. I like observing their behavior and the way they interact with each other and everything, more so than the goal of, you know, always handling them. But you definitely can tame a Tokay. It's just very, very, very different than taming any other kind of gecko. It's a different process. So we'll talk about that when we get into the taming part, you know.
Yes. Tokays have such a bad reputation, as we mentioned before. You know, you go toward, and most people, go ahead, Nanette, you've got a comment there. Most people will kind of back off from Tokays, but you made an interesting point just now that you don't handle all of your Tokays. I don't understand that. my assumption is that your Tokays are all tame. Now, obviously, that's not true.
Yep.
But my perception was before the show that you handle them a lot and you calm them down. That's not true at all.
No, I'm really super interested in their behavior. They're so different than other geckos and how they raise their young and how they interact with each other. It's so vastly different that I find it absolutely fascinating. You know, for instance, that is a that's Jurassic. She's one of my granites. She's not one I handle very often. She's kind of a monster.
That's friendly.
But I could. And I do have a girl here that I'm going to show you in a little while that I have never handled her. I raised her, I hatched her, and she's been in the same enclosure since she was a baby, and I've never handled her except for today to take her out and put her in this cup. And I'm going to show you what I do when I do handle them. So, but they're the only species of gecko that actually raises and protects their young. There are other species of gecko that you can keep the young in with, you know, like some day gecko species and stuff like that. And they don't bother your young. I have, for instance, neon day geckos and standing day geckos, and you can keep the young in with them, but they don't protect them. They don't raise them. They're just like, I don't feel like eating you today, kid, so it's fine. You know, it's there's no connection there. And with the Tokays, there's definitely a family connection. They raise those, they protect their eggs. They incubate their eggs, they lick them, they sit on them. If you keep the parents together, the mom and dad, they will actually switch back and forth on different days, protecting the eggs and moderating the temperatures of the eggs and whatnot, which is absolutely fascinating. I mean, no other gecko does that. And usually they lay the eggs and they leave them, and that's it, you know. And so, yep, there's a picture of a dad. That's Jonah, and he is protecting his eggs. He's very angry at me for the camera, and he's not letting me near those eggs.
Moms,
the only time that I really ever get badly bit is when I'm trying to take babies away from their parents.
Sure.
Then they get in a protection mode that they really, really bite. And but yeah, that's fascinating. If you remember in the symposium when I was speaking, I had a video of a mom sitting by her egg, and the egg hatches, and the baby hatches out backwards. It was like, you know, feet first.
Yeah.
And it comes out of the eggs, and it's like kicking mom in the face, and she's just like, oh geez, you know. They don't hurt their kids, they don't hurt their babies. And you always see the whole family crammed into a troop together. And it's just fascinating, you know. And no other gecko does that. And I think that I have cameras in quite a few of my cages, and I have a lot of recordings of their interactions. And even siblings will, older siblings will sit on the eggs and, you know, whatnot. So yeah.
Wow. I remember, you know, my first exposure to that kind of behavior with Tokays was probably a Dave Kaufman video that he did. Actually, I'm sure you've seen it.
That's the only Dave video I've ever seen, actually. But yeah, it was fascinating.
It's fascinating, and they're all in the shed, and they're just all behaving just as nice as anything. Little ones, big ones, it really didn't matter. Yeah. We're going to talk more about the you know, moving them from just the general care to the breeding and talking about the babies. But tell us about the general care. What's different with Tokays that, you know, if I were to get a Tokay, how should I set it up? How big of an enclosure? Let's talk about, you know, the heat, the light, the food. Right. Yeah,
18 by 18 by 24 is basically a minimum for an adult. You know, obviously you can start out babies in smaller enclosures, but 18 by 18 by 24 or larger is minimum. I have most of my pairs in a Zen habitats 2 by 2 by 2, you know, cubes. And they love cork bark because they do love to bask. Despite being a nocturnal gecko, they definitely do bask. So they like a basking light versus the heat pad on the side. You can get away with the heat pad on the side. A lot of people do, but I prefer to give them basking nights. I personally use the little miniature ceramic heat emitters, those small ones, so that they have heat all the time. They can bask whenever they want. And there's always debate about whether they need UVB. I think everything benefits from UVB. So I have UVB on all my Tokays, and they do bask under the UVB all the time. So I definitely think that's beneficial for them. And I offer UVB to all mine. Misting is, humidity, 60s, 70s, that kind of thing, but not a constant humidity. That's a mistake a lot of people make, is thinking that when you read a humidity number, it should always be 70%. And that's, nothing could be further from the truth. You want that humidity to get up to 70, 80% and then drop down to a dry period before you bring it back up again. And so this is an example of just one of my pairs cages. And I like to buy those, those big ugly trees that you buy and you put in your home. That I buy those at Mama's sales for $20 and chop them up and put them in my cages all the time. So that's what you see there is branches, trees. I buy those trees and chop them up. It's fantastic.
Nice.
And so, Lukey, I do cork rounds. I love the cork rounds. And you can't see the cork rounds in that one too much. They're in the back. But yeah, the cork rounds are great. And then I have the, you can see the basking light up there. I kind of shine right down on that, on that cork area so they can stay in the cork and feel, secure while still getting the heat basking and stuff. Luke is short.
Do you
Sorry,
find with the heat, will they moderate? Will they adjust themselves to?
Yes, they're really good at that as long as they have the room to do it. That's the more important thing. My basking spots usually sit around 99, 95 degrees or so. And the rest of the enclosure drops down into, the 80s and whatnot. And so that's what I do. And I have automatic misting on all mine, but mostly I would say mist daily. Standing water, that's kind of a debate. They will drink out of a water bowl if you want to offer it, but misting is obviously better for most things rather than standing water. So yeah.
Are they like crested geckos where if you put a water dish in, they use it as kind of their bath, their toilet, their bathtub?
Yes, the toilet, yeah. Tokays are really great about that too, in the sense that they will usually use one corner of their cage as a bathroom. Yeah, they're kind of like leopard geckos in that sense. And so when I spot clean, it's always just like one corner and the glass, but that's like any gecko.
I'm going to save this question. I had a question come to mind, but I'm going to save it. We're getting a ton of questions. Maybe I will. We've got a ton of questions already. I'm going to jump in here and post some of these. I'm going to save that. Morphs. We'll talk about morphs later. Cassandra has a question. Are there any Tokay geckos crossed with other species of geckos out there?
No, there are a couple. There's quite a few subspecies of them. I know probably you've seen the ones that have the bright green eyes. And, that's a subspecies of this, another species of the gecko, Gecko, And I actually have two hybrid Tokays because there is a gecko Azhari. I'm not really sure how you say it, but I had a female, an Alejandro, who Alejandro of Emerald Exotics, he had a male. And I sent my female to him because we couldn't find anybody in the U.S. who had him. Unfortunately, my female was wild caught and she didn't make it. And so he ended up crossing them with other normal Tokays. And then now we have the cross of those, and I have a pair of those from him. So they look pretty much like the normal Tokays, but we're going to kind of see what happens with those. But generally, no, there's not too many crosses. There's just a lot of morphs.
Okay. And we are going to talk about morphs in a little bit. We're not going to get really deep down into the genetics and blah, blah, blah.
Right. Just talk about the basic morphs, yeah.
For sure. Here's another care question here. IR Thupper is asking, what brand UVB do you use?
I use all the shade dwellers from Arcadia.
Perfect.
Those mini shade dwellers, that's what I have. They link together, which I love. Or else I use the Arcadia 6%, the, what do you call them? The shade, yeah, just the shade dweller bulbs. And you can see them. Yeah, those are my larger cages. My smaller cages, I have the shade dweller Arcadias. So that's my preferred UVB brand.
Perfect. A good brand, good proven brand. Okay, here we go. Frank is asking, how often are you feeding the adults? Good question. And what do you probably mentioned this and I missed it, but what are you feeding?
I feed mostly crickets. I find that mine ignore juvia and they ignore worms. I have juvia and worms on like standby for like this weekend it's supposed to be negative 44 degrees here. So I'm not gonna get crickets this week. Or next week, I should say. And
Wow.
so I keep a stash of, super worms and dubia for those times. Most of them don't really eat them. So it's mostly crickets. They like the chase, and dubia are slow and lazy and hide, and worms don't really move, and that's boring for them. So they'll eat them, definitely. Those are great for hand feeding, for taming. When you tame, hand feeding and tongue feeding, those are great for that. But yeah, mine prefer crickets. I feed twice a week. And I feed a little bit more than they would probably eat in a sitting. And yeah, I just feed twice a week for mine and babies and adults because the babies stay with the adults until they're about 6 months old. So
no, you're fine, Nanette. I'm gonna show
comment. Frank wanted to know if she's ever offered cultured snails or slugs.
I don't have that on the live, but Frank is asking if you offer any kind of a snail or a slug or anything like that.
Nope, just crickets and any, crickets, dubia, or worms are about the basic. Every once in a while, probably about once a month, I'll offer my breeding females a pinky mouse because they need that extra. But that's pretty much only for breeding laying females. That it's really fatty and you don't want to offer that to just, babies or anything like that. So, reading that question from J-Bag, yeah, you definitely can keep them, single. If you do have a pair or you do have, two sisters or something together, which you can do with care too, you will not have as much luck taming them because they have their family and they don't need you. You're dirt on their shoes, So if you do want to have a tame Tokay, I would definitely say have a single, one. So
perfect. Your comment about the pinkies, I don't know if you might have mentioned this, but I might have missed it again. But how big are Tokays? How big in general? How long?
My largest male is about from snout to tail about 14, 15 inches. Usually that 12 to inches or so is about a normal size adult. There's a lot of people that ask me all the time, oh, my adults are so small, is there something wrong with them? No, it's just like humans. Sometimes you have smaller Tokays and it's just fine. My oldest pair that I have is originally I got them as a retirement pair, 2 pairs from Julie Bergman, who got them from Christensen's and from Kurt Lance, and they're in their mid-20s.
Oh my God.
And they are on the smaller side because I think Tokays have evolved to getting a little bit bigger. And I think it matters where they're from too, where they've been imported from and their genetics and everything. Because I have some females that are very small. They're just fine. And so
I didn't know they got that big.
Yeah, it's a big gecko, Nanette. And that's why I wanted to bring that up when you mentioned the pinky. Not in our house. What if it gets out and what if you found like in Aliens, a Tokay sitting on your face? Wouldn't that be cool? I would. If don't scream because I want to get a video of that and get it on YouTube and go viral. Maybe I'll just do that on purpose.
One time.
Wait a minute. Let me get my camera out.
One time, babe.
She doesn't even want to stick. She's falling asleep.
Yeah. Stop it. I'm just so tired.
Nope.
We've got a question up. Let me see if I can get back here. I can't see oh, here we go. So can you keep Angie is asking, can you keep a male and a female together all the time or should you separate once in a while? Good question.
I keep my pairs together. They do mate they bond very, very closely. I tend to not have one male and bounce him around between a bunch of females. Some breeders do. I don't do that. I'll keep them a couple years, with their female, and I just keep a close eye on the female and see if she starts overlaying, if she starts looking thin, if she's laying too many eggs, and doesn't stop. Hey guys, it's chaos. Then I'll take the male out. But I find that they seem to regulate themselves very well on that. I very, very rarely have to separate a pair. They just seem to know what's good for them. I just think they're an extremely intelligent gecko. And they seem to know what is good for them. So, I mean, your mileage may vary, but I just keep a very close eye on my females. So.
Yep.
Lucas.
And everybody's, we say this all the time on the show. Everybody is different. Every environment is different. Everybody's care is different. like you
Right.
said, it might just vary per, how you're keeping them. I've got to ask, do you think, in your opinion, as somebody said, the Tokay goddess, do you feel that if you moved a male from a female from a male, and then switch them around or put them together, do you think that there might be any kind of a situation where you might have a problem where they don't accept each other?
I've had it a few times over the time of the years I've been breeding. My key to knowing when they're okay with each other is when I put them in the cage and you find them both in the same course bark together, then they're okay. Once you have that, you're golden. But you do have to keep an eye. There's always going to be that little spatting and fighting at first. I always put the male in with the female, not vice versa. And I always rearrange the cage and, everything like that before I put a pair together and then keep a close eye on them. But I've only had one instance in all my years of breeding and keeping that I've had them even injure each other just a little bit. So it's just, you gotta do it slowly, you gotta keep an eye on them. And but no, I have pretty good success with that. So
what are you watching for if you introduce and you say you have to keep an eye on them? What are you watching for? Are you watching for little marks? Are you watching
little
for
marks, yeah.
isolation? Do they ever?
Not so much isolation, but okay, you know that scene in Jurassic Park where they lower the goat down and the trees are shaking because
Jesus.
if you see that, there's a lot of chasing going around that maybe, you should kind of intervene there.
That's when you don't want to stick your hand in.
Right, that's when you don't want to stick your hand in. But I do pay attention to that. You'll see a lot of running around the cage and stuff like that. I've never had a Tokay drop a tail other than babies, sometimes babies. And it's usually my fault. Like I pick up a cork bark and I put it back down and it lands on, most of the time they do regenerate their tails, but I hardly ever have issues with them hurting each other. But yeah, it's usually marks on the face and bites on the toes or something like that. If they're minor, you can usually leave them together. But I had one client once say that a male, I think the female killed the male. And that was like super surprising to me. But I also wonder if there wasn't something wrong with the male, because even when they lay their eggs, they will eat eggs that are infertile and they'll eat eggs that are going to hatch deformed or not going to hatch. They know what they're doing. I hate to, what's the word, anthropomorphize or whatever, however you say that word. But these guys are smart. They just know what they're doing. Their instincts are strong. And I've had them eat babies before. And I think there's a reason for it because it very rarely happens. And I think there was going to be a failure of the tribe anyways. And so they take advantage of the nutrition they can have by doing that. So.
And it sounds like, some of these behaviors are just like other animals where,
Yeah.
You have a little bit more aggression than you're used to with a male-female introduction. That happens.
Yep.
So you just keep a closer eye on them.
Yep.
I've got a comment here. I found if you make the enclosure as close to natural as possible, they will breed during the right season. It makes sense.
Cork barks and, lots of foliage, lots of coverage, that kind of thing. Yeah, definitely.
How do they do shedding?
Go ahead, Nanette, ask.
How do they do shedding? That's another question we got.
They do eat their sheds right as they're shedding. Babies will shed immediately out of the egg. And that's kind of interesting to watch too, because they hatch and they just immediately know what to do. They just know that they, supposed to eat the, shed, and they'll shed right away. And so, yeah, you'll see them just pulling their sheds off, just like a crested gecko or anything else. Sometimes they'll leave some pieces of shed around, but most of the time they'll just eat it right off. You can see the lightening of the color. You can, in the body, and you also see they can't stick to the glass as well, so they'll start sliding down, and then you can tell they're about to shed because they can't stick. So
sounds
no, I've never seen the babies take advantage of a parent's shed before. Babies will, though, they will eat their parents' waste when they first hatch, and we think it's kind of like a, what's the word for it, to boost their immunes.
Disgusting.
Yeah,
I call it gross.
But yes, it's gross, but I've witnessed it many, many times. And there's a breeder that told me that one time, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I witnessed it with almost all my babies. They do. So,
well, and I kind of relate that to fish. and I relate it to some species of fish, but I also think of discus, where discus, the real long platter looking fish, the babies will feed off of the mucus of the parents. And I think it's kind of similar, that there's some kind of benefit that they're gaining.
Right. There's some benefit
that.
they're getting, to like just boost their immune system or something like that, gets those, I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of, but yeah, and they do it. And so that's just another example of how intelligent they are, compared to a lot of other geckos. There's just so many things that they do that just really shows how intelligent they are. For instance, when you walk in my Tokay room, nobody will really move. They'll just hang out wherever they are. I bring a stranger in that room and they're gone. They're gonna hide. They know me, and not in like an affectionate way. They just know I'm not gonna go in the cage and grab them out. I'm gonna walk around with this red solo cup and put crickets in there, and that's fabulous, And so, my Tokays, even when I clean the enclosures, I have a little vacuum, and I'm sitting there sucking up their waste and sucking up. They don't even care because they know me. They know and trust me, and not that they're tame. It's just that they've gotten used to the fact that I'm not going to hurt them, and they're okay with that,
So that in my mind, that tells me that intelligent level is a little bit escalated from most geckos. I mean, I have geckos that will repeat the same behavior over and over and over. They'll never tame. I don't want to say tame. They'll never get used to the routine. Their habit is somebody comes into the room, they go and hide. Whereas other geckos, scorpion tails, they don't care. In fact, if you're by there, they're like, what the heck are you doing now? Yeah.
But it's kind of like, it's like that for whoever does it, though. And in the Tokays, it's different. If it's me, it's okay. If it's anybody else, it's not okay. And so that's why I don't like to say, oh, I self-tame Tokays, because I don't. What I handle and they get used to me is not going to transfer over to you. You have to do your own work, and you have to get them, to trust you and create that bond with them. So
okay, here's
does it take?
how many bites?
Kind of like the
Tootsie Roll. How many licks? How many bites is it? I'm going to ask you a maybe an opinionated question, maybe a loaded question. I don't know, but do you feel that that's an inheritable trait where animals can be tamed? And you can pick out the two. I keep using tame. I'm sorry, Seri. Can be more docile, used to your behaviors, and can that pass down to babies? Do you think? What do you think?
Definitely. When I do have some wild caughts in my collection just for genetic purposes.
Yes.
And the wild caughts take a lot longer to get to that trust stage, if ever. Sometimes the wild caughts just never get to that but the ones that I've raised myself from parents that are mine, that I've kept holdbacks and whatever, definitely have more trusting. It's like they watch their parents, and their parents don't get upset when I go in the enclosure. So the baby's like, oh, okay, I guess I won't get upset then. And not to say that, like I said, they're not calm by any means, but there's just a level of trust there that's a little bit different, and depending on who the person is. And so that's why I work so much with behavior, because I just find that fascinating. A lot of people give up when they're trying to, or they think that just watching the Tokay is boring. Well, put a camera in that cage, because if the videos you will see at night are just incredible. So I try to tell people, get a Tokay and enjoy it for what it is. Don't try to make it a crested gecko, because it's not. Her notwithstanding, I mean, she doesn't count.
Yes.
I take Georgia to the show sometimes to show people this is not what you're going to get. This is possible for you to create, but this is not what you're going to get when you buy this cup from me, And
your results may vary.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So
I'm going to say that I have told more than, I don't even know how many people that have asked me, crested geckos, can you tame them? Absolutely. The more they handle, blah, 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 blah. Well, I want to tame one. I want one that's used to handling, because I want the babies to be calm too. And Seri, I can't tell you how many times I've said over and over and over again, it's not going to happen. That's not a hereditary kind of trait.
I don't think it's hereditary.
Until you said that, And I have been stuck in that mindset forever. And you either said that in the Gecko Symposium or you said it in a comment on Facebook. And it literally made me go, wait a minute, I need to think about this. I've never tested it. I've never tried it. I don't know if anybody has, but man, this opens my mind.
I don't think it's necessarily like a hereditary trait as much as that the Tokays are smart enough to realize that their parents are trusting me, and so they're going to trust me a little bit more, and so it's the learned behavior versus a hereditary trait, if that makes sense.
Yes, it absolutely does. I had a baby Tokay get loose in the bathroom. 5 days later, came back tame. I think it was traumatized. I was probably tired. Yeah.
It was probably tired is right. It's like, oh gosh, okay, the bathroom sucks. I'm going to go back to this person that scared me.
Green Jedi Monkey says, did you raise Georgia from a hatchling?
Nope. I got her when she was 1 year old. Yep. She was 1 when I got her. So, and she's 14 or 15 now. I don't remember. 14, I think. So.
Great comments here, folks. If you have questions, load them up because I have 8 starred right now. I'm going to come back to them in just a second. I think I'm caught up. Let's talk about kind of, we talked about here. What's any gotchas with the care of Tokay geckos? Anything you have to kind of watch out for? We talked a little tiny bit about shedding. I don't know if that's an issue.
I use substrate on mine. I usually just use the cocoa fiber substrate for them. A lot of people worry about impaction or something. They're way too smart for that. I've never had an impaction issue ever. And otherwise, no, as long as they have that range to get away from that basking spot, and you have that basking spot on a, thermostat or whatever to make sure that it doesn't get too hot, but make sure that there's a range of temperature in the tank. There can be a nighttime drop of temperature and they're just fine. I mean, there's like next week or Saturday when it's supposed to be really, really cold, my Tokay room is going to drop in temperatures pretty drastically because there's just no keeping up with, the temperatures. It just drops. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. I'm not talking freezing or anything. I'm just saying it's going to go from like the 80s probably to more like the mid 70s as temperature in the room. And they'll still have their basking spots and everything, but the, temperature will change a little bit. They are a long-lived gecko. Like I said, Georgia's in a 14 or so. I have those 2 pairs that are in their mid-20s and they're still going strong. So they can live a very long time.
That is a long time. Here's a question that I don't even know I don't think I know the answer to this. Will Tokays eat any of the fruit-based diets as treats like some other insectivores do?
I have never offered it to him, but I don't remember who I was talking to recently. In fact, I don't remember who it was that said that they did and that the Tokays love it. So I don't see why not. Just definitely couldn't be the only diet. They're definitely insectivores. They need their insects. But there's no reason why you couldn't add, any of the fruit-based, diets to them as a treat. So, yeah. Just nutritionally, they do need to have, their crickets dusted, their bugs dusted, every feeding I dust with calcium powder. So that's very important.
I don't know if I was talking to Joe Hupp or Thomas Wood, but we were talking about feeding, and they mentioned, you should try putting crested gecko diet in there. I think it was velvet geckos, Australian velvets.
Yeah, I have those. Yeah.
What's that?
I have velvets. Yeah, velvet geckos. Yeah.
Nice animal. And they said put some crested gecko diet in there because you would be surprised how many geckos eat the diet. Good point. Not that that's what you should depend on for food, especially Tokays or some animal like that. But it's
maybe I'll try it this weekend when it's so cold and I don't have my bugs next week. Maybe I'll try it and see how many of them do lick the bowl on. That's a good time to test it out so that they do have some food. And definitely. But yeah, my velvet geckos too. I offer both insects and diet. So
I started, and I think that conversation, I started doing that, and I found that the velvets will eat a couple of licks off of the diet, but not eat it like a crested gecko.
Right.
In that conversation, I was also told that cat geckos will really eat the diet. And I started, I had 2 baby cat geckos, and I fed them the diet, and it was like gone completely.
Really?
It was like, this blows my mind that a cat gecko is, and will eat the diet so well. Did you
Yeah.
have another one, Nana?
Yeah, Angie wants to know about the substrate. Is it dry or wet?
It's
question.
usually damp when I first put it in. It dries out pretty, good. There's always one section of the cage where the misting system is that's more damp than the others. So there's a mixture of it for sure.
Perfect. I'm looking for any other questions real quick here.
Somebody had asked about gut loading. When
Yeah,
I get my crickets in, I always put them in the big bin and I gut load pretty much with just the standard, fruits and vegetables, and then a commercial gut load. So
Perfect. Just, I think it's so common for people to go to the pet store, get some crickets, dump them in the enclosure, and that's like the worst thing you could do.
I get
folks.
4,000 crickets a week, and then I just put them in their bins and gut load them overnight and then feed the next day. So
You know what, Cassandra? I'm going to hold that comment for just a second. I would like to talk about, if I can find the picture here. If I can find the picture, and I will in a second.
We'll look at that.
Let's talk about babies. So, what
Babies.
anything that you have to do special to get babies? You make this sound so easy, and it can't be that easy, Seri. It can't be so easy that all of a sudden you get babies.
No, I have some pairs that I put together that never produce eggs, or the eggs are infertile. And just like any other species, sometimes they're not compatible, or you'll have a female or a male that's infertile. I have a pair right now that has like 6 or 7 eggs, I think, and they all look fertile and they're not been hatching. Not sure what's going on there, but it also is her first year, so hard to say. But if they don't lay a couple eggs that hatch within the first year, I usually repair them, give them a little break off, and then repair. And so yeah, but it kind of is as easy as putting them together. And if they're meant to be, you're gonna have babies. Some people take the eggs out of the enclosure and incubate themselves. I never understand why. I definitely think that it's healthier for them to be raised with their parents, and that's what they do in nature, and I think that's how it's supposed to be. And so I definitely have never incubated a Tokay egg. It's just, they also know where to lay. Don't try to manipulate where they lay. They know where they're supposed to lay. Sometimes it's really inconvenient spots, but I think they know what they're doing.
So it's not like a hide box. You can't just put a hide box down on the bottom like a crusted.
Nope, they're
gecko
egg gluers, so they glue them wherever they want, and then temperature wise, so once they do start laying eggs, I don't mess with the cage. I don't rearrange or move the cork or anything like that. When I clean around as much as I can, because they've laid those eggs there for a reason. So yeah.
Oh, 100% agree with that. 100%. If they're put somewhere, it's not a random act of, oh my gosh, I have eggs, I have to drop my eggs somewhere.
Right.
They're in tune with their whole environment, I feel.
And you will see new time moms that are the first pairings. You will see them lay a clutch of eggs someplace else and then lay the rest of their clutch elsewhere. It's like they're like, oh, that was a teenage mom moment. I guess I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to move them, and lay elsewhere. So I often do have some random clutches that are just all over the place, and then all of a sudden they'll start grouping them all together. It's like, okay, this is where they're supposed to be. So
Angie is asking, how the heck do you get the babies out?
You're gonna laugh at me. So when I get babies out, I'm not scared of the Tokays. Of the Tokay bite, yeah, it hurts. Yeah, it might bleed a little bit, but I'm like, whatever. So when I'm getting the babies out, I stick my hand in the tube and they latch on, and I pull them out, dangling from my finger.
Yeah, self-sacrifice for the care of your animals. Hats off to you. Wow, that's
It's
the
the easiest way to get them. You don't have to grab them and they go get all set. They just latch on your finger and you just pull them out and put them in a cup.
One finger at a time, or can you do 5 fingers and get 5?
I've never tried 5, but it doesn't hurt, and they latch on, and it's Speaking of Tokay bites, I will say this. This is one theory that I have from all the years that I've kept them. when you have a Tokay latch onto you, I've had, especially males, when I'm taking, males, if you've ever seen a picture of somebody with a Tokay latch onto them, you can see that sunken eye look that they have in there. Their jaws are so incredibly strong. I mean, it hurts and they're strong. Once they lock their jaw when they bite, they physically cannot open their jaw right away.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So
Oh
it's
my
kind of
gosh.
like, I mean, pit bulls and some dogs are the same way. There's so much pressure and fluid built up in their jaws from clamping down that hard, they can't just open their mouth. And so I always tell people, if you get a Tokay latched onto you, don't try to pull them off. Don't run them underwater. Don't do all those tricks. Just hold your hand in the cage, relax, read a book. I don't know, whatever, until they let go. And
Outstanding. Well,
because if you
finish
try to
that
force
off.
them off, you're
That'll
not
work
gonna.
for
It's
today.
not gonna happen. You're not gonna get them off because they just need to be. And then at some point, you see it happen. All of a sudden, their eyes unsync and their jaw unlocks, and then they run for safety. So that's what I do.
Unbelievable.
I just wait it out.
Nanette
No.
said that she would wait it out and just take the gecko to school. She's a specialty teacher, and she'd just wear it and show.
Right,
That's
just
like
walk
show and
around with
tell,
them.
right?
Yeah, I'm sure my boss would be really thrilled with me when
Yeah.
I walked in with the Tokay.
Well, there was like 2 days ago when I was packing up, I was taking babies away from a male, and he got me. I wasn't paying attention, and he latched on for 37 minutes.
No.
And I just kept. I had him like kind of in the cage, and I was in the next cage trying to catch babies
No.
because I was in a hurry, had things to do, and so yeah. So yeah, the bite does hurt. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
saying that it doesn't hurt, and it's just a matter of how you handle them, and they don't like to be grabbed. It's building trust, and we'll get to the whole taming thing in a bit here, but yeah.
Holy cow! There's no way.
Frank is saying, imagine that chomp on the earlobe. If I'm not mistaken, my very first exposure to what a Tokay could do was Bill Stewart, and I think he had one on each earlobe. Am I not mistaken?
Well, are you talking about the one, the Derek Dunlap picture where he has one hanging? Yes. And it's not a
Derek,
Tokay
yep.
though. It's like a Noel or something like that. And he has it like hanging from his nose.
No. We're not getting them.
That's going to be in a skit next year for the 12
No,
Supreme
it's
Days
not
of
going to be a
Christmas.
skit.
It could be Bill. It sounds like Bill. That would be a
Yeah.
Bill thing.
That's a Bill thing.
Yeah, it's a Bill thing.
I'm going to get back to the
No.
care and any issues at all, but specific to breeding them. Do you have to worry about calcium deficiencies with the
Yeah.
female? Tell us about your supplemental schedule. How you supplement these animals?
I just I use the what's it called? Gosh, it's the Arcadia brand calcium. I can't remember right now what it's called, but I just dust the insects every single feeding. I do keep an additional bowl of calcium in there with the breeding females so that they can if they need to. I've never actually witnessed it do it, but they do make a mess out of it. So who knows? Maybe they do, but I do offer that. And then, like I said earlier, I do offer pinky mice to my breeding females, and that's still looking really, really healthy. But if they're starting to look a little skinny or a little depleted, then I'll start offering a pinky every once in a while. So.
Do you ever look at the calcium sacs for your
I do.
female?
Yeah, you can see. There's
Okay.
a female I have right here. She's never bred and she has huge calcium sacs. And so, yeah, you can definitely see the calcium sacs there. If you can get them to gape, you can see the calcium sacs in there and you can see if they're depleted. So, yeah.
Do they ever develop the calcium? I don't even know what to call it.
I don't even know what it's like. It's like a buildup. It's like,
Yeah.
and some people get very concerned about that too. I've never had an issue with it. It goes away after a while. I do have females develop that. I don't know if it's an overcalcium, what it is, but there's nothing you can really do about it. And so I've never had a female pass from it or anything like that. It just seems to be something that happens every once in a while. But it can be pretty alarming because they get these 2 big bulges on the side of their, so yeah. But I've had that happen, yeah.
We've seen it, and it's very common with leopard geckos. Will
Okay,
develop.
okay.
It's real. I have a terrestrial gecko, Hemidactylus tanganicus, and it literally looks like the females have marbles hanging off their heads.
Yes, it's
sometimes.
huge. It's very alarming.
Calm down on your supplementation and don't keep the supplements in the dish for a while, and it eventually goes down. Did you have a question, Annette, that you wanted to?
Somebody wanted to know why she's not breeding Georgia.
Okay.
Because she's my baby, and I feel like if I put her with a male, I mean, she probably would remain same as she is, but I don't want to risk anything with her, especially at her age now. She's never been bred, and so laying eggs at 14 years old, just starting then would be kind of risky. So yeah, she's my pet. So there's a family of patternists. Yep, you can see the baby tucked under mom and dad.
Oh, that's so cool. Anything special you need to do with babies? I mean, you see the eggs, leave them alone. You see the babies, leave them alone. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, I leave them alone till they're about 4 to 6 months old. The reason there's an age difference there when I say that is because it depends on growth factor. I live in North Dakota. The atmospheric pressure here is very different. My babies grow a lot slower than they do in, say, Florida. It's just, that's the way things are. And depending on where you live. And so my 6-month-old babies will be a lot smaller than somebody else's 6-month-old babies in different parts of the United States. And so I can leave mine with the parents a little bit longer because of that. But babies, a lot of people are always worried about feeding them appropriate sized crickets, getting smaller crickets. Don't bother. I've seen them tear crickets apart. They tear them apart. You can sometimes see two babies grab one cricket at the same time, tear it apart, each go on their way with their own portion. I never worry about prey size with them. They are just too smart, I guess, to choke on one. Crested geckos are kind of, I love cresties, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But they're kind of the dumb ones in the class, I do worry about a baby cresty eating a bug too big and choking on it. I don't worry about with that with Tokays. They will tear a bug apart to its appropriate size. And so I never worry about that.
I tend, and this is my opinion, but I tend to agree 1,000% with you. An animal knows what it can eat and knows what it can't eat. And if it has a full adult dubia in its mouth and it's a baby Tokay, it's going to spit it out eventually.
Yep.
It's going to go, I can't eat this, and it's going to spit
Right.
it out. It's not. So they know that's
Yep.
what they do in nature. That's their job,
Yep. So, for sure.
Boy, this next one is tough. We've got a bunch of questions, but they're related to a couple of topics. One is
Okay.
morphs, and the other is taming. Do you want to talk about morphs next?
Sure, go for it.
Cool. Let's talk about morphs, and I'm going to see if I can get back over to my pictures here and see if I can. Whoops, wrong one. I'm just having a terrible time tonight. Oop, there we go. Tell us what you feel. I'm struggling with the wording here because we could talk about genetics. I don't really want to go there, but what's your experience with morphs or color lines, or how do you define that? What's your experience?
The Tokay community is really confusing because a lot of people are very tight-lipped about how the morphs work and don't necessarily agree on what to call this morph or that morph or whatever. I don't like all that drama. And so when I sell my babies, if it's like for instance, that was a powder blue that we just had up.
Oh, yep.
I have powder blue pairs. I just sell the babies as powder blue crossed with powder blue. And I don't guarantee because they change so much. And you have to see a powder blue, for instance, fired down completely to be able to know for sure that it's a powder blue. Because sometimes in powder blue lines, you also get like green-headed blues and stuff like that. You'll get patternless. The genetics with patternless in general are very confusing. Some of them are not compatible with each other. And you can't tell unless you know exactly where that gecko came from and what their genetics are. Or you just try it out. I have a patternless pair of pairs and all their babies are normal. So they're not they're incompatible patternless gene. And so it can be very confusing. You really need to know where your Tokays come from in order to guarantee certain genetics. As far as morphs like the calicos or the granites, that is a morph that changes. They don't hatch, they hatch visual. And I mean, they hatch normal and then they change over time. It can happen when they're young, it can happen 6 years from now. So the granites are very confusing and nobody really understands the genetics behind them quite yet. There's only a couple people in the United States that have really produced granites, from their lines pretty, well. And so one is Lucky Foot Gecko. She has quite a few granites that she's produced, and she's probably the one that has understood the morph the best. and then Kita from Spotted Scales as well has, produced quite a few granites. But I personally feel that certain morphs like the granites and the calicos and those type of things are I can never say this word, specific, kind of like they're not compatible with other, you know. And so it depends on where they come. Most of them are wild caught. Almost all the granites and all those are wild caught. And if they're wild caught from different areas, then might not be compatible. And so I think that's a problem with that morph in specific. So I don't really like to work with that too much because it's very hit or miss, So yeah, the
I tell you
pirates.
what,
Yeah.
Seri, I feel the same way with Periodora picta, and I'll get this all the time. Do you have the anery morph? Do you have exanthic? Do you have
Right.
T plus? And in my mind, everything is line bred other than the T plus albino amels, and that's very specific because we can prove that out. Everything else, I feel like, is line bred. And well, Wally, you worked with them for 15 years. Why don't you know? Because I don't. I don't because I would have to have 1,000 enclosures to be able to isolate and prove things
And then you
out.
have to hold back so many. Like when I have babies from my
Yes.
grandparent, they're all hatched normal. You have to hold back so many, or hope that the person you sold them to will tell you if they do change at any point in their life. I mean, I think Denise has a granite right now that changed 6 or 7 years down the line. I mean, it's so it's really, really difficult morph to work with. And people like to say that they're het pied or they're het granite. I don't agree with that because they're not. That's not how it works.
Yes.
And
Yes. 1,000 per 1,000
so I
million
never say
percent.
that. I never say that they're het granite. I mean, I'll say yes, they have granite parents, or one parent is granite, one's normal. But take that as you will. You don't know what you're going to get out of that,
I
and the
cannot agree
genetics are
more.
just not nailed down yet. And it's mostly because I think people give up too quick, and bad record keeping, and whatnot. And so and then lack of communication within the hobby. Those are the three things that prevent us from really understanding the genetics right now. So
Everything that you're saying right now is exactly the same as I look at the Periodora picta, which is my favorite gecko, but nothing's proved out except for one morph, and everything else is line bred
right.
and it's wide open.
And there's many morphs that are, I mean, they work exactly as they should, like the super reds, for example, they work exactly as, codominant gene, whatever, recessive, those all work exactly as they should. And there's some like the albinos. Albino is, a recessive gene, and it works exactly as it should.
Yes.
But, so that's my granite baby. I mean, my albino, T minus albino baby. And so I also have 3 het albinos, and I'll be breeding them when they're old enough. So that's a project I'm really excited to work with because I love anything orange. Your Christmas shirt in orange is my favorite thing ever. So
Mine too. Mine
yes,
too.
I love orange. And so this is one of my really high red. I have, I think, 6 or 7 geckos from Leland before he passed away. And this is one of his. He had beautiful, beautiful normals. And so that's one of my absolute favorite normals. He's just a gorgeous boy. So, and you see a lot of variation in the normals. I see a lot of people in the groups that say, "Oh, what's wrong with my normal? Why is it like this or that?" There's a lot of variation in the normals too. They don't all look the same by any means. So some are more dusky and darker colors. Some have a very, very light base with very red spots. I have one line that has extremely big and bright white spots. I call it a white spot line. And it's all the babies have it, their mom has it, and it's beautiful. But they're just a little different, but they're still normals. I mean, it's just a trait, I guess. So
in
yeah, I
your
agree, Melissa. The normals are my favorite. They will always be my favorite.
in your opinion,
Hmm.
this is I'm leading you here. This is a softball kind of a question, but in your opinion, do you think you could take an animal like this and get bigger spots? Or
Definitely. I mean, I also I can't remember who else has gosh, I don't remember who else, but we have I have one male that has his spots are very much in a line, and he passes that down to his baby. And so the more you breed with like traits, the more those spots line up. And it's then you get a trait, you know. So if you keep breeding a really big spot, normal like this to another female that has really big spots, yeah, you're definitely going to pass those traits along, you know. So
Gosh, this is I've never connected the two Tokays to period or a pickup, but my thoughts exactly that, you know, the more somebody would work with any of the traits, they're
mhm.
going to start developing after 2, 3, 4, 5
For sure, for sure.
generations.
You just have to carefully breed, just like, you know, any other thing. I mean, Georgia is also a normal. She's very dark and dusky color. She always has been. She's never, gosh, when she was younger, she had that light blue base and stuff, but now she's always, and she's a normal. You know, when she fires down, you can see her orange spots a lot more, but she tends to be this color most of the time. And so yeah. And then there's one bone I have to pick with some people on.
Do
This
it.
is this fired up or fired down to you?
Um, I
When it's darker, when a gecko is darker, is it fired up or
oh
down?
yeah, I guess I'm going to take the easy way out. I'm going to cheat a little bit here and say whatever they are, you know, 90% of the time, that's fired down.
Really? See, like the darker to me, when they're the picture that you just showed with the gecko with the light base,
This one or prior?
yeah, that's fired down.
Okay.
And then if it's, you know, darker like her, that's a different morph. So, but when it's darker like her, it's fired up. And the younger people in the hobby always say it opposite. And I'm this old lady. I'm like, get off my lawn. That's not right. I'll die on that hill. So, but yeah, I call it fired up when they're darker and fired down when they're lighter. But I argue about that a lot with people. So, but
But that makes sense, you know,
I
from
know it
a
does. And
yeah.
so that's why I get mad about it because I'm like, but it makes sense. So when I get when we're done with this thing, all my friends in the Tokay group are gonna be like, Seri, sorry
You're
guys.
still wrong. You're still
Right,
wrong about
I'm
the fire
wrong.
down thing.
Yeah,
I
I know.
love you, but you're still wrong. Outstanding.
That's the only thing I'll fight about. So
Anything else about morphs? Anything? What do you
um
see?
not
What?
really. This I personally work with patternist. I work with Galaxy Green, albino, and of course the normals with the different traits. Reduced pattern. So those are the traits or the morphs that I work with mostly. There's quite a few other different morphs out there, but those are my. I love a patternist. I think they're beautiful. And oh, then the powder blue. That can be a hard one because fired up a powder blue looks just like any other patternless. And so you really have to see them fire down and see if they really are that really light blue, white color. So you would see people sell them as powders when they're not necessarily powders, and people pay the powder price instead of the patternless price. So yeah.
Do you think people also get confused with the whole? I don't want to say morphs. The coloration between young and older animals, where they go, "Ooh, look at the young," and
Right. I
they
mean, they're pretty much the same. It's just like, well, no, I guess not really. I mean, they do change quite a bit, yeah. As for instance, a young powder blue or patternless will have stripes on their tail that pretty much fade as they get older, you know.
yeah.
And same with the babies, you know, they have the stripes on their tails that fade. And so yeah, that can definitely be confusion there. They do change quite a bit as they get older. So
A lot of good thoughts in the chat about the whole fired up and fired down.
right, yeah. See, it's just a fight that people have, and I guess you know, I'm old school, and I remember when you know the Pangea chat, and we always talked about crested geckos on that. Fired down was always the lighter color, fired up was always the darker, and that's just how it was always. And then all of a sudden, I started hearing it differently, and I'm like, what? So
I'm old school too. Then
yes,
let's talk
opinionated.
about let's talk about the gecko that I don't want to take this to an R rating with the show, but that the gecko that's down your shirt. Um, how? What's your thoughts on this? And Angie had a good question. We're going to get back over. I think it was Angie or J Bug, one of the two. But what's your thought about how to make them a little bit more docile and handleable. And
I tell people my biggest hint for taming, or for, I guess you can call it taming, is, those, when you go and you sleep outdoors when you're camping and you can have those mosquito tents over your tent.
yeah,
I tell people to get one of those on Amazon. They're like $20 or something. Sit in that, because your body language, I'm an expert in body language. I've read body language and read lips and people's body language my entire life. Body language is huge in communication, and people don't realize it. They don't realize how much they rely on body language.
Yep.
Like when COVID came around and everybody was wearing masks, think about how much your communication with people changed. Even though you don't read lips, you read facial expressions. And it's the same with animals. They understand your body language. And if you reach into a cage and you're worried about getting bit and you're worried about that gecko running off, your body is tense and they pick up on that, and they're not going to calm down because they can't trust you because you're, tense. Even if you don't
yes,
think you are, you are. And yes, somebody just said, if you want to tame Tokay, you need to be willing to get bit, especially when they're
no,
babies. So, like 6 months old area, their bite does not hurt. So at the shows, I always take babies out and I tell people, let them bite you and don't pull away, because then they're like, oh, well, that didn't work. And they just kind of give up. So the first thing I do when I take a baby out of a cup or out of the enclosure or anything is I just stick my finger in their mouth and I let them bite me, and I don't react. And it takes one or two chomps and then they give up because they're not getting anywhere, and it doesn't hurt. And so just let that happen. Even when they're juveniles, it doesn't hurt. I mean, it pinches a little bit, but you're not gonna die. So
I like
and
that thought that it bites and you don't react, and it doesn't have that stimulus and response,
right.
and it just says, this isn't doing anything.
And then they just kind of chill out. So I tell people, take your babies, take your try to get them as babies. It is easier when they're babies, and take them in these little tents and sit in there, because if then you can just let them crawl on you and let them sit here and go and just do whatever, play on your phone and ignore him and not mess with them, and they just kind of get used to your presence. And I've had many of my customers say, oh, that's worked like a charm. Yeah, because they can just, chill out and relax, and you're not grabbing them and you're not gripping them and you're not hurting them. And so then they learn to relax. And with a crested gecko or leopard gecko, you can kind of just walk them hand to hand and then they kind of just chill out. But with tokays, you just have to earn their trust. There's that intelligence level there, and you have to earn their trust. And so grabbing is always a no-no.
Yeah.
If you go in there and grab them and you strain them, you're never going to get anywhere. And
So show us how. Let's say this one is in a log or something. Let's see how you handle
Yeah.
for the
I'm
first
gonna
time.
pull the phone back a little bit. Hopefully you can see.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So I haven't
Oh,
handled
perfect.
this girl. Okay. She's in a cup here. I want to take my fingers like this, put it in the cup, and go right behind her head. So she can't see how her head is moving like that. She can't latch on to me.
You see
I'm
that,
not
Nanette?
gripping her body very hard.
Nanette,
The rest of my
Nanette?
hand is
Yes, I
very
see that
relaxed,
now.
but it's holding her there. But it's right here behind her neck, so she can't turn around and grip me. And so that's the key right there. But the rest of my hand is very relaxed.
So when you had her in the cup,
Mhm.
you were able to put your hands right
Yeah,
there.
I
It
just
wasn't
slide
like,
my hand in there and latch my fingers behind like this.
it
And
was,
that is the key. So she can't latch onto me and bite me. And I'm gonna react because it hurts. It's hard to not react when they're this size. I mean, she's got huge calcium stats. She's a chunky little thing. When I took her out, I'm like, oh boy, okay. And she's gaping, she's angry, and it's gonna take a little bit for her to get over that. But the key is the rest of my hand very relaxed. I'm not gripping her, I'm not holding her, I'm not, it's just right here. And even this is not very tight, it's just there. It's kind
just
of like a cone,
restraining.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so what I do is just sit like this for a little bit until she calms down and quits gaping. And then I will start touching her a little bit. And then you kind of go from there. Then you can start going from hand to hand and stuff. And again, if you're sitting in that tent or you're sitting, I mean, some people say the bathroom or something, but my experience in my bathroom has been I'm like on my hands and knees behind the toilet trying to catch
Yeah.
them. So I prefer my little bug tent, you know, and so I'll just sit in there with them, and then as soon as they calm down, put them on my shoulder. If they want to jump away, that's okay. They can. They're not going to go anywhere. And then I just pick her up again and bring her back, and you know that is how you tame a Tokay. And no grabbing, no reacting, no screaming, no whatever. And another way is to simply get them used to your presence. Have them in the room that you're in. Have the cage in a busy area so they see you come and go all the time. Offer them food on a tongs. I feed all mine in a red Solo cup. They'll come right up to the cup and eat out of the cup because they recognize that cup. And I know Erin does that too with one of her big boys. She just feeds him out of a jar, and she doesn't handle him, but he'll come right out of the cage and come right into that jar and eat, because then they get used to your presence. And so when I reach into a cage to catch one, I just lightly cut my hand over them, put my fingers like this, and then pull them out. So yeah.
When you went into that cup, was the gecko's reaction to turn and open mouth?
Yes. That's why this maneuver is key.
Okay.
So now I'm just kind of touching her, and she's mad, and that's okay. I mean, she's gonna be mad. That's just, but
this seems like the natural defense kind of position.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then even after a little bit, see, she's not biting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay, now she is. It doesn't hurt that bad because I'm not fighting it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just letting her do this. And like I said, big males, your mileage may vary. And there are some females, yes, that would definitely, grip on. She's not really, she's just kind of chomping down a little bit. I'm just going to let her. And
so do we
after she lets go of me, because she gets tired of this, because she's not latched on like really hard, But if I pull my finger away, she's going to keep trying to latch on more. So I'm not going to do that. I just sit here with my finger in her mouth and let her do her thing. And she's going to get tired of it. And then the next time I go put my finger in her mouth, she's not going to chomp down like that, because it didn't get anywhere, And
no reaction.
24-hour show, Frank.
No, it's not. It's going to be another 36 minutes. It's been 1 minute,
right,
so we've got another 36 minutes left.
I'm not bleeding. It doesn't hurt. I mean, it pinches, but
Greetings by Pelly. Seri is braver than I am.
And that's just the thing, though. Like, you're gonna get bit, and you're gonna have to be okay with that. Some people do use gloves when they handle them, and that's okay. I mean, you can, if you're scared, because otherwise you're just never gonna get anywhere. You just really, it's a different way of taming. You just can't go hand to hand, and it's just, they're gonna run, and you're never gonna get anywhere, And so yeah.
Did she break skin?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
I think you meant,
every time I move my finger, she just pinches down on me, And it's a battle of the wills. Who's gonna let go first?
I love this because, in my mind, what I'm thinking is this is just a matter of attrition, that eventually this gecko is going to learn that this doesn't have any reaction.
Right.
She's going to do it, and it's just not going to have any reaction. She'll stop doing it.
And you have to remember, this gecko's never been handled in her life. She's probably, this is a B year, so B, D, D, E, F. Yeah, she's like 4 years old. She's never been handled in her life. I've had her since she was born, and she's never been handled. And so,
She does this for the first time on your show.
I
could take my finger away right now, but I'm not going to, because, and the rest of her, see how relaxed the rest of her.
Yes. I just wish we would have seen some blood or something, because I want to get more money, from views, and I don't care.
I can go get a bottle of ketchup and pour it all over for you if you'd like.
I can put this in Photoshop or something afterwards.
Just right, there you go.
Yeah. I tell you, some of the comments are just wonderful here. Now, I'm going to see if I can go back up and find this.
You're such a chunko. I didn't realize she was such a chunko until I took her out. I'm like, oh my goodness, baby.
Gloves, I find.
Yeah, I do feel that gloves scare it's not, they don't feel you as much, and it's, but if you're that scared, if you're scared of the bite, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be, because they can draw blood and it can't hurt. I'm not saying that they don't, it's just a matter of how committed you are to, experiencing that. I do feel the gloves, do too. Sometimes, especially when I'm packing for chili and stuff, and I'm a little more in a hurry and I'm a little less respectful of them because I just don't have time to, I will just use paper towel to grab them and stuff and put them in, so that I'm not. So she's about to let go.
IR Thumper,
Yeah, they
ML,
can't smell you. Yep.
Yes, 1,000% on that one too. Yes, absolutely. I think that, and I give credit to people that are trying to handle and will wear gloves because they don't want the
Right, and
touch
that's
and everything.
okay.
That's cool.
It might set you back a little bit,
Yep,
but it also, it just might take you a little longer. But and some geckos will let go right away. Some of them will take 37 minutes or wherever at, who knows, but.
While
Okay,
we're
so
go ahead.
If you get bit by one, Seri, what do you do as far as cleaning up the cut? If
I just rinse it under water, Neosporin, whatever, I have a couple of scars from some of the bigger males that have latched on for a while, but so I mean, I work with dogs. I'd much rather get bit by a Tokay than a dog any day of the week. So I think that's why I'm a little bit more relaxed about this, because I get bit by dogs all the time. Chihuahuas, Shih Tzus. I mean, I'll take this, thank you.
I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, my bird. I mean, I have an African gray parrot that can crack a nut open in a second. If he bites me, yeah. So I guess in comparison, the Tokay just really isn't that bad to me. But if you're used to a crested gecko bite and then you go to this, it's gonna be a lot more. Oh yeah, Georgia's just walking down here. She's on my couch, just wandering around. She won't go anywhere.
Everybody had a concern about the other Tokay just kind of disappearing.
Yeah, she's just chilling out on my knee now. So.
We've had you for a long time here. I have one final question, and then I'm going to jump over to starred questions here. But and this hopefully will be a short, because it could be a long answer. But where do you think, from a business standpoint, where do you think Tokay Geckos are going in the next 5 years or so? What's your thoughts on that?
I hope that people will learn to respect them for what they are and enjoy them for what they are, instead of trying to make them something they aren't. So if you get a Tokay and, it's just a display pet, and even though a display pet you won't see that often, just like I said, get a camera, put it in there, and explore a whole nother world that you're not going to see, and respect them for that and enjoy that part of them. Not everything needs to be handled. Not everything needs to be like my chameleon that's always out and display. There's other geckos and reptiles for that. So respect them for what they are and learn about their just incredible intelligence, and experience that for yourself without having these expectations of them being something else. They said Georgia is wonderful. I love having a tame Tokay, but that is just not normally the norm, and you have to really work hard to get that. And if you want to do that, that's fantastic. I highly recommend it. But and as far as figuring out the genetics, I do hope that more people communicate about the genetics, instead of keeping it so tight-lipped and tied down, and be like, this didn't work out how I thought it would. Why? And open up that conversation a little more, so that we all can understand how the genetics work quicker. And there's a lot of ego in the hobby, as you know, with any species.
With anything. Yeah.
I have zero patience for that. And so I don't get into the genetics as far as, all that. I just enjoy them for what they are, enjoy their behaviors. I enjoy, the different colors that I produce. And enjoy talking to other people about them. So
I'm kind of on the same page. I like the genetics. I like understanding. I like learning. But, that I'm not going to get buried in it. That's not why I'm keeping the animals.
Right,
I'm keeping the animals to see them behave,
Right.
together, and I want to see that behavior. I want to see babies, and so that the
Right. And the
genetic
babies
thing
are
is
awesome.
involved.
It's just so fun hatching. I never,
Yeah,
ever get tired of seeing new babies, ever. It's
ever.
so fun watching them hatch and seeing new babies interacting with their parents and they're adorable. And so, yeah, I love the babies. I hate selling. I'm terrible at selling. I am absolutely horrible at it. But I have to because I can't keep everything. So yeah. And I also hate shipping. I'm hoping to start shipping this year because I get so stressed out about it that I always say, nope, I only sell it Chinley. Sorry. But I think I'm gonna start trying to get over that because I need to, there's a lot of people that want my Tokays and I would like to share them with them. But I gotta get over my shipping fears. So
Yeah, it's I get this question a lot, from our Buy Me a Coffee members about shipping for the first time, and I kind of walk everybody through hand in hand. It's not easy. It never gets easy. We've shipped thousands of
right.
packages out, and if there's any bump in the road, start reverting and I start rocking back and forth and
Right. Well,
mumbling
it
to
sucks for
myself.
me because I'm in North Dakota. We don't have a hub in my
Yeah.
city. The nearest hub is 90 miles and time zone change away. So
Oh,
I have to trust my driver to come pick them up, and it's just a whole nother level. I can't even get things shipped to hold that hub here. They have to ship them to me
oh,
directly at the business. And
oh.
so it's just that doesn't help. So
It's another
yeah.
big obstacle. I'm
Yep.
going to hit the starred questions here, and
Yep.
Frank's asking, "What are your oldest individuals?" I think you might have talked
Yeah,
about that, but
Jeff
we
and
can.
Julie, I named them after Julie Bergman and her boyfriend Jeff. They, I think, are about 24 or 25.
Wow.
Wow,
What
I
is the life expectancy
She's let
for?
go now. And
Oh, look
there
at
you
that.
go, there you go.
Bet she's got her mouth opening up.
That was nowhere close to 37 mints. I think we talked about
hang
this,
on, I
but
got to get Georgia. There we go.
you're fine.
She's running for the hills.
I think we talked about this before, but what do you gut load your bugs with?
Oh yeah, just mostly I do carrots, potatoes, some romaine lettuce, pretty much the vegetables I have in my fridge kind of thing, and then I do a commercial gut load as well. The vegetables I use mostly for moisture, more so than just so that rather than water crystals or anything, I prefer to have the vegetables, and then I use a commercial gut load. So yeah,
Perfect.
yep.
J-Bug has a really good question. So, of course, their personalities are all different, but can you tame one that's already set on eating your face off?
Yep. I remember I don't remember what chimney it was. Chimney or two ago in October, I had one of the big males out that I never handle. And after about half an hour of just, chilling with him and everything, I had him sitting on my lamp, just sitting there, he was fine. He was fine. I could hand him to a couple of people and he got over, the fact that he wasn't going to win and he just kind of chilled out. So, and when I was taking babies away from him, he certainly wasn't feeling that way. So, you know. So,
I never thought.
yeah, and everyone is different. I mean, like, Christy Canarium, we were talking the other day about one of her males that she's been working with that she just can't get anywhere with. I mean, he is just determined to be a jerk. And I told her, you know what, just let him be a jerk. And, that's just his personality. He doesn't want to be part of your world. So give up. It's okay to give up sometimes. So.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Anthony is saying I've got close to 200 geckos, and Tokays are in my favorite top or my top 5 favorites.
Yeah,
How cool.
they're definitely my number one favorite. I absolutely adore him. So she's very, very relaxed right now in her body stance.
Yeah.
She's still gaping. She's still very angry, but she's not bolting. She's not trying to bolt. I'm barely holding on to her at this point. So
This all, and knowing geckos a little bit, this all feels like instinct right now.
mhm.
Her body is relaxed, but she still has that
Yeah,
instinct working.
it takes
I'm
time. It
yes.
takes time. You're not gonna do this in one session. And so I mean now I'm just touching her. I'm not even gripping behind her head anymore. I'm just, you know, and
How
there's a
cool.
little bit of blood from a teeny bit from just skin scrape, from when she was
Yes.
holding on. Yeah.
Folks, we have
But
blood.
do you see how different it is now from where her better go. I can
Yeah.
touch her. I'm not gripping her, any at all. She's just sitting in my hand like this. She's not going to go anywhere. So
She knows she's on camera. Somebody
yeah,
said she knows she's on camera and she's just posing
you're
now.
famous.
Look at that. Oh, there goes the mouth. Now it's more of a smile. She's not really angry. She's smiling.
So
Very
yeah,
cool.
this is a galaxy green, by the way. You can see the reduced pattern, and it just has the white. There's no orange spots. There's all those little white spots in there. That is what the galaxy green looks like. It has a very gray green base, and then all the white spots all over it. And I love that. Her tail is very, very white.
Wow.
So yeah,
This
it's
is
one of my.
why
I like this morph a lot. This galaxy looking. I think it's very cool. So
the whole color scheme of Tokays is just like we've said before a couple of times. It's just wide open right now, just completely wide open.
Yeah. So
if
super
anybody
awesome.
else has any questions, put them in the chat right now. We'll catch another question or two here. Who in the chat, raise your hands or maybe make a comment. Now that you've seen Tokays, has your opinion changed even a little bit about Tokays? I know I've had a couple of facts that in my mind have changed. How about you guys? How about anybody in the chat about Nanette says nope? Nope. That's funny. Nope.
Come on, look at her. She's now just chill.
Angie is saying bioactive or no?
Absolutely. They'd be great for bioactive. Yeah.
Cool.
You'd have to use the smaller isopods, God, they probably eat the bigger ones, but the smaller. So
Yeah. And you can always
there you go, Jen. I like that.
Yes, I do too. That's super cool.
I mean, they're cool looking, but
Anthony says the same thing. No, I've always known that they were cool.
Yeah.
What live plants are best for bioactive setups?
Usually pothos or pothos, I don't know how people say them. Gosh, I don't know plant names very well. I have a million plants and I don't know what they're called. She's mad. Look at that.
Oh, there you go. Look at that behavior.
She's mad.
It's kind of like she's saying, okay, you know what? I've kind of had enough here. This is about enough.
She
now.
is very relaxed now as far as, posture. Like I'm not,
nope.
She's not trying to bolt or anything, and she's letting me touch her. She's still mad. I mean, but yeah. So
it
yeah, this is typical bioactive plants. They are heavy body geckos, so they're gonna crush things. So a lot of cork bark and a lot of things for them to climb on, other than the plants, would obviously be best. But George's tank is bioactive. I have a couple of live plants in there, but I have them in pots just because it's easier. So it's not really bioactive, but there's so.
Anything that we've missed, anything that I haven't asked you about Tokay Geckos? I think we have a couple of converts here as far as caring for Tokay Geckos. But what if I miss, Seri? And
I can't really think of anything you've missed. You never really want to buy a young baby Tokay. I think they definitely benefit from being with their parents for some time. Adjusting and so when you buy those little bitty ones, I would not suggest that. They should be left with their parents for at least 3-4 months, in my opinion. It's just beneficial for everybody all the way around, so.
Good point.
So I'm gonna say one thing here, totally unrelated, just because Melissa made a comment there. Melissa's going through some stuff right now, and she has a GoFundMe going on. So check out my page. Please share it for her, so that she needs some dental work done. $36,000 worth of dental work.
Oh.
She's a really wonderful friend, and so please go check that out. Share it if you can. Donate if you can. I'd really appreciate it. We're doing some off market auctions, so keep an eye on my page too. You might get some great deals on those auctions. Sometimes those auctions go for fabulous prices, but the money goes to Melissa. And so keep an eye on all that. I'd appreciate it.
Very cool. Love supporting good people. I can't think of any other questions.
One person had.
Yeah, I can't think of anything we've missed about talking about, them. It's just their care is pretty, simple. the calling. I know a lot of people like to ask about their calls and stuff.
Yeah.
Males will call when they want a female. The females do not call, but they do bark. You heard her barking earlier, I'm sure, when she was mad at me. They do have a pretty amazing range of sounds. You know, the barking when they're mad. Sometimes I'll go and feed them when they're sleeping or something, and I'll startle, and all of a sudden you just have them barking at you. The males' calls are incredible. I think that considering I have about 80 geckos, Tokay geckos in my house, I think it's probably a good thing I'm deaf at night and I can't hear them call, because I'm not sure that, you know, how many are calling at night or how loud that is, but, you know, yeah, I don't know that it's kind of a benefit there to not be able to hear that sometimes, I think. So,
Seri, somebody did want to know if the males get a lot bigger than the females.
if they do what?
Do the males get bigger than the females a lot?
It's not really a science on that. It really just depends on the genetics of them. Do have some females that are just absolutely giant. And so it's not you know, like some geckos, it's always like, oh, the males are always bigger. Not necessarily. It just depends on their genetics and their makeup and everything like that. So yeah. I mean, she's a big girl. She's, you know, chunky, she's big. And Georgia, in comparison, come here. Oh. So when you compare, you know, Georgia's a little bit, you know, smaller. So yeah.
Thank you, Melissa, for that comment.
Yeah, I do have a morph market. It's Gallery Gecko with you know, Gekko instead of Gecko, you know, but I don't have anything listed right now. But if I do sell, it will be on my morph market. So yeah. And in the spring, I probably will. I mean, I really need to get over this shipping thing and just do it, because, you know, got to get over things sometimes. So
I was trying to beat Frank to the morph market link, but I'm sure he's probably already found it and he's posting it here. So,
but yeah, if you do follow it, eventually there will be something listed on there. I always do list, if I do, you know, if I will list things, I'll list them on my Instagram or my Facebook page beforehand to let people know what's coming and stuff like that. So yeah.
And we had the Facebook page link before.
Yeah, Frank's been posting all kinds of links to you. Cassandra is asking, do you notice a change in their behaviors during the change of the seasons or weather?
Definitely. When it gets colder, they're a little bit, I mean, they don't roommate necessarily, but you do notice, you know, they're less active. I think that's way with anything. You know, my snakes right now are a lot less active because it's super cold, you know. So yeah, I definitely think weather changes affect any animal, especially when you live in a climate like I do. Like where they live, there's not exactly negative 44 degree Fahrenheit nights. So that would affect anybody, even though they're captive bred, and you know, it's just nature. So yeah.
I knew Frank would have that link.
So.
This has been a wonderful show. Absolutely wonderful. It's changed my opinion in many, many different ways. It hasn't changed your opinion at all?
They're beautiful and I think they're cool, but I don't want one.
You know what? Next time they bring her over, we'll make a hold one.
Yes, you will. That's our job. Seri, that's our job next time, is to get Nanette to hold a Tokay.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes. You heard it here.
She's like, I'm not coming. You're on your own.
I'll be busy that day.
Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a great talk. I really appreciate it. Wonderful animals. You really
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. We've kept you a long time. Thank you very much, Seri.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone, for showing up tonight. This has been a great talk. We're going to have some amazing people on the show in the next few months. So if you don't know, we do a lot of these lives, or I should say interviews, on our Buy Me a Coffee program as well. We've got some doozies coming up there too, so stay tuned. Thursday nights, 6:30. Thank you again. Good night, everyone.
Good night.